The Mahindra Thar Roxx, the most awaited car of the year, has finally been launched. And talking to me about it, I have the Executive Director and CEO of the Auto and Farm Division of Mahindra and Mahindra, Rajesh Jejurikar. Rajesh,
Good
congratulations.
to be here in this
Yeah,
beautiful.
good to be here. So it's finally out.
Yep, it is.
And Rajesh, just first off the bat, typically, one would imagine that you would have a Thar three-door and stretch it and add five doors. But I think a lot has gone into making it more than that. Obviously, it's a costly exercise. Globally, people tend to kind of, do it the kind of, let's say, a cost-effective way, which is to just do the stretch because that in itself adds a lot of value. But I think you've taken it not one step, but a couple of steps further.
Yeah, so almost few things go behind a decision of this kind, and these are not easy decisions. When we got started on this project, we thought, okay, here's a automatic extension. And then that was the first proto that we saw. And then we saw it, it looked so bulky and actually didn't look sharp. Because, when you study the DNA of any successful brand, there are design elements, proportion elements, which play such a critical role in establishing its success. And for us, that really was about the proportions of the three door were really what made it such a huge success. And we then got into, saying that how do we create the space but keep the proportions intact?
Right.
And that became a key driver in the whole design strategy and the whole, in fact, then led to an architecture and platform strategy, which is very different. The other thing we wanted to do differently was really to say, uh, this is going to be a different target customer, and they want to get a larger number of people in, family, kids, friends, and we are going to have really five comfortable seats, right? High quality of ride and a really, really good noise level. And
Yeah.
that was the other area. And then, of course, we kept adding, how scope creep happens in our kind of company.
But I need to know on the cost. I mean, these things are costly. You put a lot of content in here, and yet you're pricing it very aggressively. How does the mathematics work? I mean, and still, I mean, how do you get the margins out of this? Can you share where you save and, where do you really splurge?
I think a lot of this is about the decision, the right decision on content. And I think one of the things we've been able to do reasonably well is a good varianting strategy. So what we've kind of started doing, as you've seen over the last 4 or 5 launches, is we have a very reasonably attractive entry level, but we really load everything
At the top end.
at the top end. That and hence we straddle multiple segments in the way this product creates appeal, and that really is how we are looking at it. The other thing is we are amongst the largest buyers of tech now in the country. So a lot of, because we started with XUV 700, which is a big volume player. 70% plus of that volume was at the top end, and then we added the Scorpio, and again the same thing. And the 3XO also we put in a lot of tech. So when we look at our whole portfolio, we're actually amongst a big tech buyer. That gives us a very
So does that give you scale?
that gives a scale advantage. So one of the things that in a
And
way,
is that one of the costly bits of the car?
of course, the costly bit, as you know, are the commodities, the
Right.
metal, and so on.
Correct.
So which of course also has some kind of scale benefit, but the differentiation is coming out of tech, and we are one is the uh, developmental cost of tech. We are able to do it at India kind of cost. Commitment from many suppliers to localize in India for us because we are creating volume, I think, is another key driver.
Right. Let's take it straight. One thing is cannibalization. Seems to be obvious that there will be some largely with the three door Thar because clearly just three doors can be a deal breaker for a lot who want to have a lifestyle vehicle but want to enjoy it with their family. Do you see a fair amount of cannibalization there, and do you expect it? And I mean, would you be happy that if it's all in the family, it's fine?
We of course expect cannibalization. There will be customers who will choose to stay with three-door because it is distinctive. We've kept the 1.5-liter engine only on that, so that allows us to keep a price point.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
So I
so
have some gap
so
between.
we have the gap, and that creates that.
And just from my understanding, what is the rough sale of the 1.5? What, 70%? Is it fair?
So
Assume that.
well, yeah, we right now do about 6,000, 5.5, 6,000 of the total brand portfolio, which is roughly half four-wheel drive and half two-wheel drive.
Got it.
And in the two-wheel drive, maybe like 60, 70, 50, 60% at least will
The
be the
1.5.
1.5.
So fair volume.
Fair part of volume, and then that kind of distinctiveness and differentiation stays. Also, many people who are real, we believe real, the real off-road enthusiasts
Yeah.
are still going to prefer that which is the distinctive, original, classic. I mean that
Right.
it has all of that, right? So
Right.
this is going to be a more mainstream product. It's going to be aspirational but mainstream.
Right. And Rajesh, looking at where Mahindra is going with its product portfolio, obviously what we see is products are becoming a lot more aspirational.
Yeah.
But you know, the price points. Is the brand being tested and stretched? I mean, to be honest, XUV 700, you had to roll back the prices. Obviously, a lot more than what the launch price was. But I mean, with each product, are you even pushing, let's say, the brand strength to what you can keep premium pricing the products? And is that also the strategy?
I think when you look at what's a relevant price point for a brand, it's a combination of brand strength, but it's also a combination of volume aspirations.
Right.
So if you kind of say yes, the brand can take a certain price point, but then what's the volume expectation from that? And you've got to see in that volume segment or in that price segment how much volume are you generating, right? So for us, XUV 700 was already at a 6,000 volume with the kind of price point we were in, but we want growth.
Right.
And if we want growth, we have to create more accessibility in the brand. If we wanted to stay where we were, and we are at 6,000, and that price point is a very, very good volume in the Indian market. I mean, very, very between when you look at between Scorpio and 700, very few brands in the country get the kind of volume that we have been able to get at those price points.
And I think your XUV 700 scores to the Altura's pricing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which at that time was really
Yeah.
expensive at that point.
Correct. So yeah, I mean, so 30 lakhs on road is actually what we were doing at the up end of 700. Now we're not going to be able to drive growth, right? So then you got to start saying, okay, let's do a multiple set of things. So we brought in an AX5 Select, and we've created a more accessible AX7, AX7L as well. So I think it's I don't think it's only a function of brand. It's also a combination of brand strength, aspiration on volume, uh, and what the product feature offering is and how differentiated it is at any point of time.
Right. And going forward now, I mean, is the target going to be, you've got the 3XO, which is doing about 10,000 units a month on average right now. Uh, you've got the Roxx. What are volume aspirations and targets? I mean, clearly we've seen the ramp up in volumes. I mean, you've doubled in, a couple of years. Is really volumes now going to be the main target because obviously that gives you a certain amount of scale. You've got capacities lined up, and in the end, it's a volume business. And I think at this end, that's something also I think which you all are aspiring.
Yeah, I at least over the years we've all learned that you rightly said it. The auto business is a volume game, or you're going to be like a super niche player with so getting caught in between is a bad game.
Right.
So you got to either play the volume game, or then you have a brand which is super premium, niche.
Yeah.
There's some international brands, and then
Or
there.
your Batista, for example.
Well, yeah,
That's ultra niche.
that's ultra niche, right? Uh, but for us, it's the choice is, you want to get the best out of your supplier community. You got to deliver credible successes. They've got to see volume momentum, because then they're willing to make bets on us. They're willing to give us good costs. And on the other hand, the dealer community, because you want them to stay engaged, and they
Right.
need the momentum, they need the growth, they need the energy, they love the buzz of their phones ringing when we do something new.
Right.
So it's not just our internal ecosystem; it's the entire ecosystem which wants volume. But then you got to have the right balance on profitable growth. Otherwise, you can take the business into a,
Right.
into one end of the spectrum where you mindlessly go behind volume. So what we keep watching for is what's the sweet spot, what is the right price point our brand should maintain, and what's the right level of margin we want to deliver overall profits, ROIs, and all. These have been very healthy numbers for us. While we've driven volume growth, we've gained market share. We have amongst the best industry margins and very, very healthy ROCs.
And just looking at Thar and Thar plus Rocks, is it fair to assume about 10,000 would be a nice kind of a target for that? Is that something?
If I was to avoid giving the target in quantitative terms, because the market's so well calculated. Right. We've kind of said more than 12.5 lakh ex showroom price point is roughly 45% of the industry by volume. Right. Mahindra as a brand is number one in this segment. Right. We have two brands in the top five. Right. We would like over the next 3 to 5 years, Thar as a brand portfolio, right, to be not just in the top three there, but at the top. Right. The reason I say that, even though we have two brands there and one of them is number one, is the kind of passion that the Thar brand creates. Very few brands, I would say, in the country or the world are able to create.
And even Scorpio is quite an iconic brand.
It is very iconic, but the passion that goes behind the Thar, and it just, every time I see this happen, it just reinforces this perception. Last night when we had the reveal of the product, and this community goes for several launches now to a month, right? But the excitement to see it when it's coming out there was unprecedented.
Right.
We literally, for the photo op, couldn't get to the vehicle.
Right.
Now that's the kind of passion that this brand creates. So I think it's really
And
amazing brand.
also after COVID, we've seen there's been a certain, let's say, love affair being reignited with the car. Earlier
Yeah.
people were looking at shared mobility. That's the way it was going. Do you think that's happened and it's here to stay? Or, are people really looking at, using the car for lifestyle, for adventure? Or do you think they'll just, go back to just looking at them for just purely commuting purpose?
I think there are two important social contexts that we have to, social or economic context that we have to keep at the back of our mind. One is the need to get away. I think that's very real, and that's only
Right.
going to go up with time. That is enabled by the stress of life around. It's enabled by people starting to work from home. So, a greater desire and time even to go out and get away. And okay, you'll do a few meetings from outside, whatever. I mean, that's the new generation.
Right.
Very different than what we grew up with. The other is, I think, very significant, which is the way the national highway networks are coming up. And the way the national highway network is coming up, I think it's going to get people on roads like we've never seen before. Right. So if for a lot of people, you kind of said, okay, the roads are not good. Let's not use our car to get away. Let's
Right.
fly.
Yeah.
That's going to change,
Right.
and that's going to change dramatically in the next 2 to 3 years. And we have to give credit for that to the honorable minister who is driving this with so much passion.
Right.
And I think that's going to change the paradigm of the auto industry. And if you know this well, but that's exactly what happened in North America.
Yeah.
I mean, the roads created the auto industry.
Right. Right. Rajesh, I'm not going to talk about EVs in this because it's all about car and IT, but uh, there are still a few gaps in the front of the workforce. I think the mainstream SUV between AXO and and others. Clearly, you've got a sub 4 meter right now. Then you jump into the IT. You think there are a few gaps?
No, this is it.
First, you think this
For everyone who said, where's your 4.3, 4.4 meter product, this is it.
you don't think, you think this could be a direct setup, I can?
Yes, yes. Because I don't think, I think the way to fight leaders in a specific subsegment is to create a highly differentiated offering.
Right.
And this is that.
Right.
So, this is it for us.
Right.
This
So
is
what you're going this will be a mainstream SUV, like an everyday SUV.
Yes,
So that would be competing with a soft roader.
this for us should be the single vehicle in the family.
Right.
Unlike the Thar three-door, which will be the second car or third car, people should feel comfortable saying this is the only vehicle I have, right, in the family, and that's what we will give a satisfaction of saying we've created a mainstream product.
Right. And just lastly, to just talk a little bit on 3XO. Again, doing very well, but a very competitive segment. Understanding is that, there have been, cancellations are quite easy because people, if they don't get their variant, they don't
Yeah.
want to wait, and because there's so much choice over one.
Yeah.
So is that something you need to manage by kind of tweaking the variant demand? Because again, that really is always the challenge.
Yeah, so it's not a booking segment. I mean, it's like you said, it's competitive. People will wait a little bit, but for many of them, it's the only car in their, is their first car or it's the only car, and when they decide they want to have it, they need it.
Right.
It's not like it's the third car or fourth car, so it's fine if it comes after 3 months. We're very mindful of this.
Right.
And I mean, there are instances, many, of 17 people coming to take delivery of a vehicle, which is the first time the vehicles come in the family. These are very emotional moments.
Right.
So from our standpoint, as long as new bookings are coming in, there is positive buzz with the people who bought it, which there is.
Right.
We are going to get momentum on it going. I don't think it's the we are getting out of this mindset of we want bookings.
Right.
We want deliveries, we want growth, we want lesser waiting time.
Right.
And I don't think in today's era,
The whole booking thing in a way is given a bit of a bad name in
yeah, exactly. So, it's so we are not really into this. So, what's booking and are they getting cancelled? Because that's going to be part of it. I mean, there are going to be some people who wait, but many who won't. And when they are not waiting,
Right.
may buy something else. But there are others who are going to come in
And finally the sale at the end of the month is
what is going to count.
yes, exactly. So great, Rajesh. So I think really uh, on the back of 3x or 10,000, a month, which do you think you can sustain that for a fair bit?
10,000 is a number you put out, not me.
No,
But,
these are the figures which you all share with CM. Those are the numbers you
yeah,
say every
yeah, but of course there's a initial fill in and all of that. But like we've said, the aspiration is to get to being number one, number two in that very, very competitive segment.
Right.
We were number five 4 months back.
Right.
So we moved up, and we think we've gained quite a bit of share. We're probably at number three now from five.
Right.
But long way to go.
Rajesh,
Thanks
congrats
so much.
and
Thanks
wish you
so
all
much
the
for
best.
being
Thank
with us here today.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.